Hey guys, that was weird. When I first started today, I couldn't see. I started one and then I restarted it because I couldn't see any of the messages in the something was just wrong with the way the window came up. So apologies that I had to start again. the chat on the side was invisible. I couldn't see anything. I'm like, this isn't right. Anyway, I'll close my door here. So what's up? Happy Sunday to you. And when we starting, says Mr. J, right now. Of course, I'm behind in the chat as usual. Morning, folks. Like my mug. Oh, Dan's up in the top chat. You're too kind. You say, thanks for spending your time with us. Of the new Celestion IRs, what are your top picks for Marshall type crunch? The go-to is always for me the all mic mix of the Greenback 412. So with the Celestion IRs, they do individual mics and stuff like that. And the nice thing about the Celestion IRs is they don't give you too many. So what I mean by that is sometimes it can be a little overwhelming, like with these huge collections of impulse response. It feels like a job to go through them all, and the differences between a lot of them can be subtle and stuff. And with Celestion, they basically give you, say you've got a Greenback loaded in a 412 cabinet, and they might get with, in the case of Celestion, with a few different mics, an SM57, Sennheiser 421, and a Royer 121, as well as they give you some room mics. So if you're looking at those individual microphones, let's just take the 57. They will give you what's called 57 balanced, 57 bright, 57 fat, 57 dark 1, and dark 2. So it's 5 different positions, and basically you can imagine just the mic being moved. If this is a speaker, you're moving the mic out as it gets darker. The balanced is where they think it's like the most balanced. Obviously, bright will be probably right in the middle of the cone, et cetera, right? And so you basically get 5 or 6 different choices, and then so somebody else is in the top chat there, and then they give you. I'll get right to you in just a second. Then they give you mixes of the microphones. So like with the 57 and the 421 and the 121, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I think it's the balanced mics that they just blend. 57 balanced, 421 balanced, 121 balanced, and they'll put all those right, and mix them all and blend them together. So anyway, you're basically getting like a really nice 3 mic blend. Sorry, fixing myself up here. of the 3 different microphones, and that gives you a really nice balanced sound. So that would be my go-to, the Greenback 412 all mic mix. And that always sounds great to me. And I'm going to make some of my own custom blends for my amplifier for the PT 15 IR to ship with the amp. Blends of the Celestion microphones that they've done, but that's a great place to start, and I always think it sounds great. So Malcolm says, Pete, I contacted Chicago Music Exchange in order to pre-order the PT15 IR. I can't find a dealer that knows about your new amp, so help me out. Are they a SIR dealer, Chicago Music? I'm not sure if they are or not. Basically, whoever was at NAMM got to see the amp. SIR only had it. They had a dealer room at NAMM. It's on the website. So if you've got a SIR dealer and for some reason they're not hip to it, it's I don't know what else. They told all their dealers about it that I know of, and took over. I think it was 100 something orders or something like that for amps. So if there's a dealer that doesn't know about it, then that surprises me. I would say send an email to the cs@sir.com, customer service at sir.com, and ask them what's a good dealer that I could get in contact about this amp in my area. Chicago Music's a huge dealer though, so are they not? I don't even know if they're a SIR dealer. I have no idea. Maybe somebody out there can shed some light on that. Scriptface says, hi Pete, from what you remember, how did 12301 sound compared to your SL68? That's of course the famous Van Halen amp, which I did get a chance twice to play through actually. Dave Friedman has worked on that amp, good buddy, and when it first came in, we plugged it in and tested it out because I was in his shop, and he did some work on it, and then I tried it again later. So, to me, it's like the amp sounds great. I don't know that it sounds any. The funny thing, and with Dave, sometimes when I'm in his shop, we do this a lot. We'll plug in 2 different Marshalls, and then many times he's dialing in amps for people, and he's got some great ones. Like his 6850 watt is just stellar. And he does this thing where he puts them both on an amp switcher, and then he goes back and forth into the same cab. And when he tweaks an amp and he wants it to sound a certain way, he'll just spend time, replacing components and getting it to, a certain place. And when he's done with it, and then we're comparing, and I think sometimes he likes other people to play so that he can just listen to it. Because sometimes when you're playing, it's hard to judge tone. I don't know if you guys ever noticed that, but it's fun to give a friend the guitar, and then you can kind of just listen as they're playing. And especially if you're banging back and forth on an amp switcher, you can kind of, so anyway, he likes to do that. And man, he gets it so damn close. It's just like those amps. I don't think there's any necessary magic in any of them. I mean, there's formulas because the parts, they used all kinds of different parts and stuff, and there's different stuff. I should get to the folks in the top chat just because I don't want those messages to disappear. But you know what I mean? At the end of the day, I think you can make any couple of Marshalls sound like one another if you just spend some time tweaking them and stuff. It's just parts, I don't believe there's like necessarily magic in any one of them. I think if you spend enough time, it's just science. It's like parts. There's always some reason that they sound a certain way. Henrik is up in the top chat, and he says, what bridge is in the Sir Standard that you used for the Rev 4 demo? Great use of the bar on that song. Thanks. Yeah, it was a Floyd. I have the guitar right here, and I can show it to you. So I've had that guitar for a couple of years, and this was kind of before we did the PT, the new bridge, the Wilkinson, before that was available, I was hot on this, which is an original Floyd with no fine tuners, right? So so there's no fine tuners on it, and then it just has the no locking nut. But this is not as easy of a transition to make as the bridge, the Wilkinson bridge, which is much more just like a straight up Strat bridge, So this is cool, it's a Floyd, but John had to do a little work on it. I remember he had to sharpen the knife edges because the way they come, they're not. It's just like. So he got in there and he really sharpened the knife edges and stuff on it, did a little bit of tweaking to it and stuff. And this is a fun guitar. I mean, I like it, and you heard it in that video, and it's cool. But I believe the bridge changes the tone a little bit. These type of Floyds, they change, or any Floyd really, over a Strat bridge. It's not quite the same. You're not stringing through the block anymore and all that business. And it's just kind of a little bit different sound and feel. But I do like it, like in the way I used it in the video. I put out this Rev video yesterday, and I was using a lot of bar on the solo. There's a certain thing to it. You can really, I do like the feel of them, I grew up with them. So there's a certain thing to it I do like. Let's see. Jeff says, sorry, I missed the chat last week. He's up in the top chat. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Please forgive me. And I forgive you. I'm happy you're here at all, and keep up the great content. Thank you. Okay, so well, I'm gonna back up a little bit here, and it's have you ever played a Comet 60? Says Leon. Any impressions? I think once I got my Comet right here. I have a Concord. I used to have 2 actually, and I love Comet amps. Now the 60 is just maybe a little bit more kind of headroom, maybe a little more versatile overall than a Concord, which to me is like. It just kind of wants to rock, the Concord. It's not like super high gain or anything. I mean, it's got, but you got to turn it up. It's like a vintage amp, but God, what a tone. The Concord I need to start using it more actually, because it is a really nice complement. I sold one of mine. I had 2, and I sold one to Lyle Workman, who's an amazing guitar player, and he was using it with Sting and all kinds of stuff that he does. He uses it in the studio. He's got a great 50-watt plexi, and he thinks the Concord is different enough and yet similar enough to that tone that he likes to use them together. And sometimes when he'll do a stereo pair of guitars, he'll put the Concord on one side and then the plexi on the other side, and hard pan them because he thinks they complement each other really nicely. It's just a really great sounding amp. I don't know. And the 60, Mark Knopfler used to use them. It's 6 L6s, and it has an output. I think you can actually put EL34s in it, right? If I'm not mistaken, on Comet 60, it's got an output transformer. Somehow it allows you to change tubes if you rebias, and it's versatile that way. But it seems to be a little bit more of a, maybe an amp that's got some, a little bit more of that 6L6 character obviously, right? Like, you know, maybe not quite as MIDI, glassier top end, bit fuller bottom end, maybe a little more versatile than a Concord. But a Concord is, I'm not saying it's not versatile, it's just a little bit more like a EL34, you know, it wants to rock. The Concord originally, I guess, he made for Richie Sambora. That's what I heard. Mark says he Mark's up in the top chat. No, you guys are too kind. Thank you for doing the top chat, Mark. He says, I sold my Kemper a month ago since I play a BE and PT at lower volumes. Is it worth buying a powered Kemper now, given the Boss expander is coming out? Never tried a powered Kemper and cab. You know, it's funny. I just plugged in my Kemper 2 days ago. And I hadn't plugged it into a power, like the powered. I've got a powered Kemper, and I hadn't plugged it in for ages. So, you know, they sound good. Like, it works good. It's hard to deny. I'm an amp guy, you know, through and through. You guys know that. But I plugged it in to show a friend because he was telling me about a buddy of his that's thinking about going Kemper for lower price touring and stuff. And I said, well, let's plug in my Kemper and listen to it. I plugged it into a 212 cab over here with some direct profiles I'd made. So in other words, profiles with no speaker simulation, just I only profiled the head. And, you know, he listened to it and he was like, damn, that's pretty good, man. That's my my assessment too. It's like, it's pretty good. I mean, I'm a tube amp guy. You know, I love tube amps. I love the simplicity. I like the Kemper. It's a great tool. So the disadvantage of the Kemper for me is just figuring out how to work some things and navigate the menus and stuff like that. It sort of looks like a piece of medical equipment to me, and it's difficult to get around. But there ain't no denying that a Kemper is a great tool, right? You know, it's for most people that know how to use them. I think of it like a sampler. You know, it's like a sampler, and you've got you got your Steinway piano and your Bosendorfer or whatever, however you say it. You put the samples in the sampler, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's pretty damn good piano sounds, you know. And it's all dependent, in other words, on what you put into it, and it is capable of some good stuff, you know. So I just, you know, I'm such an amp guy. I still love amps and tubes, and you know, it's just sexier to me, right? Like the Kemper is a great tool, and you can't discredit that, you know, but amps will always be sexier. Tubes and, you know, all that good stuff. So and old guys guitar vlog, old school guys guitar vlog, maybe you're old school too, says happy Sunday, nice to see you here. Where's the coffee? Right there, my friend. Love the Cheshire mug, says Lawrence. What's the brew today? It's Pete's. That's some quality Pete's, of course. No, that's not. I will drink other brands, but I do like Pete's coffee, actually. It's just Pete's house blend, I think, actually, today. Thoughts on CC's Grammy and his kid's speech? You know, I'm sorry to say I didn't see Little Chris's speech. I watched the Grammys, but I came in kind of late, and I didn't see. I guess I just missed it somehow. You know, I mean, I think it's great. He that they honored him, and you know, it's his kids are fantastic. You know, I saw them at the tribute concert, and it was great to see them. And you know, I used to teach them guitar. I mean, when not that long ago. I mean, 2016, I was going, and when Chris was in town, he was working on a record and stuff at the Henson Studios. And I used to drive over there, and I would give them. He asked me, you know, who should I get to teach the kids guitar and stuff? And I said, dude, anytime you're here, I will teach your kids guitar lessons. You know, come on, like. And he was like, oh, come on, you know. And I was like, no, of course I will. And so I used to go teach those kids guitar. I would go over to the Henson, and they would sit in a room with me for, you know, 45 minutes or a half hour each. And I was, you know, I'd bring a book and write out tab and stuff. And I made them some YouTube videos in a private playlist and stuff, and put them up and stuff like that. So I remember teaching little Chris, like, how to play Paint It Black, and Tony, I was teaching how to play, she wanted to learn Fast Car by Tracy Chapman. So I taught her that, and a couple, you know, and Tony was getting really good, actually. She's a good singer, and a good guitar player. Like, she had that natural, very, you know, just natural. You'd show her something, she'd just go, you mean like this, and then pick it up, and she could play and finger pick. And Anyway, yeah, love that whole family. Bill said he's up in the top chat. Do you pick pedal do you pick pedal videos based on what you want to play or companies that contact you? I'd love a video of your take on the Comet Coda. I'd love to do a demo of the Comet Coda. I should contact Hoagie because I saw Hoagie last year at the Guitar Summit in Germany event. And he's a great guy, you know, and we get along great, and I've got great respect for him. So if he wants a video, I'd be happy to do one for him. I generally, it's people contacting me these days and saying, hey, would you be interested in demoing? And I say, well, here's what I do. And, you know, and then we go back and forth, and I kind of try and schedule it out, and I'm always behind. But that's kind of how it works. Sometimes I do pedal videos of just ones like where I did 5 boosts, for example, 5 completely different ways to boost your amp, and, you know, did, you know, overdrive and treble booster and all that. And I put all the pedals in one video. So occasionally I'll do that stuff. But there's only so much time in a week. It gets hard for me. I just started this, you know, pro musician, like, so you want to be a pro musician, I ended up calling it in this little series. And, you know, so I'm going to make one of those a week, and I'm going to do that every Wednesday for a little while, and we'll see how that goes. And on Sundays, and beyond that, I can do maybe 2 pedal videos a week beyond that. And that's about all I have time for, like once, because they take a couple days to make each. So that's a full work week right there, of doing this stuff, and not including other things I got to do, you know, like pay the rent and, you know, clean my kitchen and, you know, stuff like that, laundry. So, so I can only do a couple a week, and generally it's when people, it's, you know, if folks are contacting me and they want me to do it, I'm happy to do it, but it doesn't leave a lot of time for doing other videos. I also got to get my studio build part 2 video done. So I've been meaning to get on that. That's the next thing. Now I've kind of got this idea for these videos on Wednesdays, the pro musician stuff. And as I start knocking those out more, I sort of got into a little bit of flow. It's like, okay, I know what to do with those now. People seem to like the first one, so I'm going to continue on that path. And anyway, we got 440 people online, and I forgot to apologize for being late today, so I'm sorry about that. Do you have the occasional day where you don't want to pick up the guitar, says Michael? That's a great question. How do you get motivated? You know, I always recommend kind of the same thing for motivation, which is if you watch some of those Jam Track Central lessons. For example, I got the Laurie Basilio one, as well as the Mateus Asado. The way they break down things in those, you can buy one of those lessons, jamtrackcentral.com. I have some up, but I really like the way that they sort of flow. Like, you know, they'll, like Mateus's, for example, he plays this beautiful piece of music. It's awesome. That sounds like him, you know, and then he breaks down each lick one kind of at a time, slow and fast. And then you've got a jam track you can play along with and practice. And there's something about the way it's just very digestible information. So for me, I would pick up a few of those. You can get some on Jam Track Central that are like $4.99. They're so cheap. And you go on there and it's just a download, you know, throw it on a hard drive. And when you feel stuck or something like that, just throw that up on your computer and plug into good tone and just see if you can pick up a lick or two, you know, from these great players. It's like taking a lesson. It's better than taking a personal guitar lesson in my mind, because the information is so, you know, digestible and there for you to review, because you get the videos you can go over and over again. So anyway, I would recommend that. Like, pick up some. That's a great one. There's a million things you can do. There's True Fire, all kinds of other ones. Tom's up in the top chat, and he says, thanks for your advice on a HH single cut LP style guitar. I decided to get a Nag Steve Stevens because of the high fret cutaway access. Those are great, man. I love mine. It's a terrific guitar. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Somebody else was up in the top chat, and I missed you. I'm sorry. There you are, Johnny. Johnny's he's up in Canada, and Johnny sent me $6.66 Canadian. Pure evil. I like it, Johnny. Have you ever met Zakk Wylde? Yeah, I have. I had fun with Zakk Wylde a couple times. Ever transcribed any of his stuff? No. But he's a really nice guy. He kind of talks a mile a minute, and he's kind of salt of the earth, like, you know, like you would expect. If you don't follow him on Twitter, follow him on Twitter. He's really funny. But I met him at a LA amp show. So if anybody lives in LA, they've probably been to that thing at the Airtel in Van Nuys, this hotel where they clear out all the rooms and fill them up with amps. And it's like a hotel that you can play a 100-watt Marshall on 10 in, which is a pretty cool experience. And I did that with Zakk Wylde, not one, but two in the Metropolis room. I was playing one like pretty loud, and he came in, he goes, "Brother, you sound good. You've got tone in your hands." I always remember him saying that. And he had a Heineken, and he was sharing his Heineken with me. And he's like, "I'm not supposed to be drinking this, but I'm going to do it." I probably shouldn't be saying that, but he was like, I think he doesn't drink at all anymore. But anyway, he's like, was stopping drinking or whatever. So we had a Heineken, and then he said, you gotta try this. This is how I plug it in. And he grabbed a chorus pedal, a Boss chorus, that I think they had in the room, and he was down on the ground, like plugging in the cables and stuff and plugging into 200-watt plexi style heads. And I played 200 watts, like cranked with the chorus pedal. and so that was really fun. So that was my first Zakk Wylde experience. And, since then I've met him a couple more times, and he's always been a lot of fun. Gabe says, "What's the purpose of Yannick Gers?" He's the third guitar player in Iron Maiden. I love the fact that those guys, Adrian Smith left Iron Maiden, and then Yannick joined because, of course, they need another guitar player. And then when Adrian came back, they just kept him. It's like the Foo Fighters now with Pat back in the band, right? Like he left for a long time, and then he wanted to come back, and Dave said, "Well, we'll just have all the guitar players." I like the idea of the band being kind of like a club, that it's like, just get everybody. And, it's the same with Rami, the keyboard player at Foos now. He's a friend of mine. He's, he played with them long enough. And then one day they were just like, "Dude, you're always here. Like, we like you, and this is our team, and you're in the band." And they made him a band member, as opposed to like a hired side guy. I love that idea. So, I got no problem with, I know the classic Iron Maiden lineup is, of course, Adrian and Dave, and I was a Maiden fan for sure. Going way back. I saw Maiden on the Power Slave tour. I'm gonna eat this. 503 people online watching me eat a power bar. Sorry, but not sorry. I gotta eat breakfast. Okay. Yeah, Mark says Pete's Major Dickinson for breakfast in the morning. That's one of my favorites. Pete's Coffee, Major Dickinson's blend. I like it. And what else we got here? Rick Duff says, "Dude, this has to suck to talk about. You don't have to. Probably the Cornell stuff, right? It's okay. It's totally cool. I'm happy talking. But thanks for your concern. I do appreciate that. That's actually really considerate of you. I'm excited to hear some samples of you guys are talking amongst yourselves. Sorry, about a pedal. I'm losing the context. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna lose you here. I got to keep it going. Who's your preference for tubes? Do you have a favorite, and why? Thanks. That's Matt Fisher. So for old stock tubes, let's talk about NOS tubes for a minute. I did a lot more of this like 10 or 12 or 13 years ago, where I was like going through old tubes and trying them all and figuring out what I liked and stuff. And, there's so many different varieties, say, of just Mullards or of, Sylvania or like whatever. And there was all these rebrands and things. So sometimes you were getting a Mullard when you thought you were buying a Sylvania tube or whatever. There was, but for the most part, as a general thing, with new old stock tubes, I found that I really like Bugle Boys, Amperex Bugle Boy tubes. Which I guess are, kind of 60s and 70s, and any Amperex Bugle Boy I found, I just loved, especially in the first position of a Marshall type amp. I like them more than Mullards. And then Mullards were cool too in, great, but I didn't find there was this magic thing with them. I like the Bugle Boys. It was like the fullest, like sort of like, everything's there. There's nothing missing sounding tube to me. And the RFT tubes were nice in Marshall used to use those a lot, I think, in the 70s. They were like I think like made in East Germany or something like that. But RFTs, they were gainy and kind of sounded. The tube that's closest to the RFT, to me in a modern tube is like Chinese sort of high gain tested, fairly low noise preamp tubes. They're kind of RFT-ish to me. So RFTs were used a lot in Marshalls. And as far as a vintage tube, like a new old stock tube goes, if you find them around now, they're still kind of reasonable. They're not that expensive. Like you'll see them around for like $60 each. So you could get one, you know, and put it in your V1 of your amp and it wouldn't like break the bank sort of. But anyway, those are some of my favorite tubes, especially in British style amps. And then as far as power tubes go, I really like old Teslas, like the old ones from the 70s. And as well, I've got Mullards like XF2s and XF3s. I've had pairs of those. Siemens are great. Those are awesome. And the tube that's probably closest to the Siemens now, and I think it's just a copy of it, is the Electro Harmonics. And actually, I played a gig the other day with my SL68, which has been retubed with Electro Harmonics EL34s, and it sounds great. Really, really, really good sounding. So, and I know that those are the tubes that actually Sir's using now, as well as Friedman, Electro Harmonics EL34s. They're consistent. They sound good. They have a low failure rate, so they seem pretty damn good. And other new tubes I like. I mean, for preamp tubes, I'm really not a fan of the JJ tubes. They, to me, have a real blanket over the amp effect. So I know that they're low noise and that they're great in V1 if you're a manufacturer, because they tend to be less. So they're, you know, it's tough these days being, you know, you could get 50 screen tubes from, you know, whoever you buy them from, and then, you know, 20 of them are bad and the rest of them are okay, you know, that sort of thing. They're always sending back tubes. So it's like, and by bad, I mean microphonic or noisy or, you know, so it's hard, you know, when you're like trying to make amps and you're held up by all these, this is the, you know, the weak link is tubes these days. But I really like Chinese preamp tubes over JJs, and there's only a few brands. I mean, basically you've got the Russian, you know, the new sensor stuff, you got the Chinese stuff, and then you've got the former, you know, Tesla, now JJ. And I don't know. So JJ does make some good tubes, though. It's funny to me that they can't like make everything great. But like, for example, their 6V6, which is what we're using in the PT15, at least for now, is a kind of legendary tube for being great at this point. The JJ 6V6 has been out for a number of years, and a lot of people think that it's one of the best 6V6s ever made. That was part of the, you know, going into the making an amp. It's like, well, what do we do for power tubes? Like, well, why don't we use, you know, let's try 6V6 because this actually this great tube that you can get. You know, they're consistent. They handle high plate voltage. Like, for example, the Jim Kelly amps that were reissued and John was building for quite a while, they always had the JJs in them. So they've got a lot of experience with the 6V6s, and they never have any problems with them. So anyway, so those are some good, I don't know, that was kind of a disjointed, you know, roundabout. Evidently the EH 6CA7 is a pretty good tube too, and I've always wanted to try those to see how close they'll sound to the old Siemens, like what Eddie used to use in his amp and stuff. Mark's up in the top chat, and he says, so you want to be series was great. He's talking about the so you want to be a pro musician, put up the video on Wednesday of this past week, and it's been doing pretty good. People seem to like it, so I'm going to keep going with those. So Mark says it's great. So much life advice. Should be called So You Want to Be a Good Person and Live a Happy Life. When is episode 2 coming? Thanks, man. Episode 2 is going to be up on Wednesday. So I'm going to do them every Wednesday at 2 p.m. That's my goal anyway. And hopefully I can meet that goal. We got 534 people online, which is awesome. Just noting that. It's terrific. Great turnout this week. Yeah, so Wednesdays, I'll put up one each week. You know, the one that I'll do this week, I think, is going to be on... like a lot of people just are wondering, like, well, how do I even get started? Like, how do I, what are things I can do to even get my foot in the door? And, you know, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, like how when I, you know, you first get to maybe you move to Nashville or LA or a city like that. It's like, what do I even do? Like, how do I meet people? Like, how do I even get to go on an audition or, you know, meet the kind of people I need to meet to get to the next stage? And so it's going to be about that, I think. But I've got topic ideas to go for. I mean, I've got at least 10 of them written down. So there's plenty of material there for videos. I did a lot of, talking about this kind of stuff in my Premier Guitar column, which is called Tone Tips from the Road. I've been writing that column since I think 2012 now. So, 12 columns a year since 2012 is a lot of stuff there I've gone over. So I'm going to go back and revisit some of those and then sort of use them as launching off points for video content. So there's plenty to come for sure. But this week I'm going to talk a little bit about like what do you do? Like, how do you even get started? Making the kind of connections you need to make and, getting your foot in the door, so to speak. So that'll be what the next one's about. Moving down. Let's see. Let's see. Do you like Supro amps? Says Braxall. I do. And a Supro is something that I would like to get soon just because it's something different that I don't have here. So yeah, and I know the owner of the company really well, Dave Kotai, because he also does Pigtronics, which I've made a lot of videos for Pigtronics, and he does the Supro pedals as well. And so a Supro is definitely something that I'm interested in. And Brax also says, which one do you like? If you like them. Well, I've only sort of heard them briefly, but it's like Steve Stevens has one. And I'm not sure which one it is. Might be the Zeppelin-y one, but there's some new ones I saw at NAMM that look really interesting. There's a new inexpensive one, by the way, which looks like it's called the Blues King, I think. And I was impressed with that. I heard a fellow playing through it at NAMM, and it's only like $5.99 or something like that, I think. So it's a made overseas one, but he made it to kind of be a direct Blues Junior kind of competitor, I think, and it looks really cool. I don't have a hell of a lot of experience with them though, so I've got to spend some more time with them. But I'd love to have one of the Zeppelin style, like what Jimmy used on the first couple Zeppelin albums, and he makes a version of that. You reminded me, I got to contact David actually, because it could be something I could use around here, because I don't really have anything quite like that here in this room. Robert Baker's here. Hi, Robert. Always good to see you, my friend. Robert Baker is a great guy. He made a video this week that, I'm sorry, Robert, I haven't actually had a chance to watch the full video yet, but it was about guitar records he likes, and he mentioned mine in there, which I really appreciate. Thank you, Robert. And he makes great guitar videos. I'm sure you guys know who Robert is. He's well-known internet guitar personality who I've hung out with at GitCon and stuff. Adam says, have you had a play of an exotic guitar yet? Love my sirs, but exotic are making great stuff. I haven't. I played a gig the other day, though, just 2 nights ago with Jürgen Carlson from Government Mule, and he was playing an exotic bass. They've made him kind of a custom model that has like a mid boost in it, but it's basically, looks like a P bass. So it sounded great, and he really likes him. He's a great bass player. We had a lot of fun the other day. A gig way out in Covina, out east of LA. I'd never played Dancing Days or Cashmere before. I did both of them that night, both in the correct, alternate tunings, which was fun, and no rehearsal or anything like that. And we managed to get through Cashmere without screwing it up, and it was cool. That song is so long; it's like 8 minutes long. Let's see. Do I think Line 6 dropped the ball by not allowing you to make amp profiles with Helix? That's Chris. Well, the only ones doing amp profiles really are, I guess, Kemper. They're different than everybody. Like, nobody else is really doing profiles. You could do the positive grid thing. I feel like to some degree the positive grid thing, some people think it's profiling like a Kemper, but it's not, as far as I know. It's tone matching, much like what you can do on an Axe-Fx, where you use a similar amp model and then you use the tone match block in an Axe-Fx to kind of match the EQ curve of, which is, it's basically almost like in Logic, there's a thing called match EQ, where you can put in an EQ curve and like of something that already, like, you could play like a guitar tone, like off a record or something like that, if it was isolated and it was just the guitar part. And then you could play your guitar with an amp model and the Axe-Fx, listen to them both, and the Axe-Fx will compare the EQ curve, the tone of your sound, and then, the soloed guitar track, and then it'll generate an EQ curve to match them, like wherever your sound is different, it'll match it. So, and that's the same, as I understand it, as the positive grid thing. So the only ones really doing. So I don't really think it's, most modelers out there on the market are like the Axe-Fx, right? Is what I think. And both are valid, because the reality is it's great to be able to profile your own amps. I think it's really, really, really cool. But, in an Axe-Fx, there's like 400 amp models. Like if you can't find something you like, or in a Helix, there's I can find something I like in all of them, basically, that'll work good enough for me to dial in a good tone, that feels familiar. More Guitars is up in the top chat, and he says, Pete, will you incorporate your upcoming PT50 into your live rig, depending on the venue, or will you stick with the tried and true 100 watt? Will there be more features to make you utilize it versus 100 watt? Yeah, I mean, the PT50 largely I wanted sort of based on the 15. So I'd love to just kind of, have the 15, but in a slightly higher power version. And I don't know that it'll be 50 or 40. We haven't decided yet, but something like that, 40 to 50 watts, something around in that range. And because we haven't even, explored that just yet, but I don't think it's going to be that difficult, it shouldn't be, because basically I want to do what's in the 15. We might explore doing a couple things different, like in the 50 as far as features go. Like maybe we want to include a couple more things. I'm just not sure yet. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to use the 15 in my live rig. Like it's, I used it live already, and it's pretty, like for a lot of bands, because I like to run in stereo. So having two of them is like, I think I can, get away with actually the 15 in a lot of situations. And it sounds huge and bulky, and I love the hundreds. I mean, it's great to have options. I just don't know yet. And a lot of it could come down to logistics too. For example, like I've got 200s that are in Japan right now that are both there. Both my Blueface ones are in Japan. So to go there and play and bring other amps would just be almost like it's an expense and stuff like that. I'm not sure that will make, say I got to go over there this year to do some gigs or something. I'll probably be using the hundreds just because they're there and the cabs are there. And it's like, that's, production doesn't want to incur expense they've been storing them over there for all last year and stuff. So a lot of it comes down to that, but I'm definitely, I'd love to use, both the 15s and a potential, upcoming 50, for some of the new features, as well as it's just fun to, get jazzed about using new stuff. So we'll see what happens. Ryan's up in the top chat, and he just sent me two, which is awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that. Both of you guys for doing the top chat. I appreciate that. That was More Guitars. If you guys don't know, the top chat is just a thing that I sometimes people do it, and then I see their messages instantly, and they pop up in the thing up top, and it's just easier to see because I get so far behind in the chat. Let's see. So I'm going to move down a little bit. Let's see. Love Pete's coffee, way better than Starbucks, says Mike. I don't have a problem with Starbucks, really. Once in a while, I think it's okay. And actually, to tell you the truth, two things about Starbucks coffee. Let's talk coffee for a minute, because I like coffee. If you guys have never done first of all, the blonde espresso, pretty damn good. It's real smooth. It's not as like, sometimes Starbucks has this bite to it or whatever I don't dig, but the blonde espresso is pretty good. So try like a whatever latte, Americano, whatever you get, cortado, macchiato with the blonde stuff. It's decent. And then the other thing is the single origin coffees you can get there that they do on the thing that's called the Clover. If you see a Starbucks that's got that big thing where the thing goes up and down in it, and they've got all the single origin coffees, try one of those on the Clover thing. The Sumatra is freaking good. It's delicious. So Starbucks has some stuff together, but overall Pete's is, yeah, I agree. I prefer it. Okay. I'm going to move down. See what else we got here. Deer Creek Audio says that he had to sell his old Ampeg V4 stack. Those were monsters. But he still has a Leslie cab. Too heavy to carry at 66 years old. Yeah, man, I understand. Who wants to carry all that stuff around, right? You still have a Leslie, though. I like that. At 66, you're like, I'm not getting rid of my Leslie. Forget it. Leslie's, man. You know who's a big fan of Leslie's? Is Sir. He loves Leslie's. He used to play through one. Like, just to play through it, I don't even think with the rotary speaker thing going. They just have a really amazing sound. Any advice on choosing a talk box, says Johnny Lane. You know, I've never even tried one. That'd be a great question for Phil X. Hit up Phil X on Twitter and see if he's another great guy to follow on Twitter, by the way. But Evan says, do profilers sacrifice feedback, overtones, dynamic range? I like the convenience aspect, but I haven't tried a good one. It's debatable. I mean, I don't think it's quite the same. There's something about the experience. It could be all in my head, but yeah, you know, I mean, you can roll down and clean up and all that stuff, but I don't know that it's the same. I've got to do a little side by side and really, you know, the best thing to do would probably make a profile of your favorite head with a Kemper, right? Because I always like the scientific approach to these questions. Make a profile of your favorite amps in the Kemper, just the head, and then have the speaker cabinet right there that you normally use. Plug your head into the speaker cabinet and play, and then plug the profile you just made of the head only in the Kemper into the cabinet and play. And you go back and forth. I did it once where I made some direct head profiles and I went back and forth. I was, to be honest, quite impressed with how well it was, how close, but it wasn't quite the same, but it was like, it's pretty good. And like, if you just had to go play a gig and you know, you put it was pretty damn good, I have to say. You know, I don't know why I say that so begrudgingly, but it was pretty good. But everybody's going to feel different about that stuff, you know. Like, I was only doing kind of like, I did my PT amp as well as a modded Marshall and Kemper in the Kemper. And then I did what's my Comet, I think those are the only ones I did. One amp I could never make a profile of is an AC30. It was impossible to get I mean, I could make I think I could make a regular profile of it, like but I had problems making a direct profile of just the head, like an AC30 style amp. It just didn't sound, something about the classic, like it sounded way more distorted when I was done. And I never could figure out why that was. And I talked to actually Michael Britt about it, who makes great Kemper profiles. And he was like, yeah, I don't know what it is about Class A, like AC30 style amps, but he was commiserating with me on that. But he made some great ones actually that did sound good. So maybe he figured it out. I don't know. Do you have plans to play somewhere near Holland or Belgium in the future? I'd love to, man. I love coming over there. You know, probably some clinics upcoming for the amp would be the first thing. A friend of mine, Shane, great drummer, he mentioned last night, he's like, man, we got to play your record. Like, we got to go to the Big Potato and do some gigs and stuff. And I'm like, okay, finally I should get off my ass this year and like put a group together and like go do some gigs for my record. So you never know, you know, I'll see what I can get going this year. If I can get a set together that I'm happy with and stuff, it might be a thing where I like start thinking about actually like, how can I go places and tour, you know, play my music. So, but the clinic thing's definitely going to happen for the PT15. And it just depends, you know, there's SIR dealers all over the world. So we've been talking about Asia and all kinds of stuff. So we'll see. Okay, I better get down lower in the chat here. Let's see. Tone Hunter, he's in the regular chat. He says, "Hey Pete, watching from Kent, England. Just bought myself a 2204 Les Paul Standard in root beer. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant you bought a Marshall and a Les Paul, but you said you bought a 2004 Les Paul Standard in root beer. That's cool. New guitars always bring inspiration. I agree. New guitars are always great, fun to play." Yeah. Bahamazzi says, do I think a multi-FX like the Headrush GT1000 or the like can replace a pedal board? If not, in the near future, you know, I think you can go a long way towards it. It's just a bit of a learning curve and you have to spend some time on it. There's a great video with Johnny Marr talking about, I love Johnny Marr, by the way. He's an awesome guitar player, I think, and comes up with such great musical parts. But great video of him using a Boss, like an old GT100 or something like that, to kind of replicate the pedals on his board, and he shows how he uses it. I think it's really good because Johnny's great. He wrote some amazing stuff, plays some amazing stuff, and he shows how, in a real practical sense, he's like, so, you know, I went at it this way because it's easier, and I can use this one thing, and here's the sounds, and he kind of goes over them all and stuff, and it's totally possible to do. You know, yeah, I think it's possible. There's something, it's the ease of use of being able to reach down and turn a knob on a pedal board that you lose, right? No matter what, with a multi-effect type thing, you're going to lose that direct, you know, you're going to have to push some buttons and page through a menu to get to something always, no matter how easy they make them. And I'm a big fan of, Helix and stuff. It's just a little bit more complex to do. So I don't think it's a sound thing as much as it is the overall experience of, a modular pedal board, of just having things that you can pull on and put on. The other day I brought my Bogner Blue Ecstasy pedal, the small one, the newer one, and I used that into the SL68, running on it on about 5, and I used it as a gig. And it was like, this pedal sounds great into this amp. And just the ability to have to put that on my board that night for the gig, and just grab some dual lock, throw it on the board. I got the little board down here. I'll show you the board I used in just a second here. I'm going to answer a couple things in the top chat first, then I'll show you this board. Let's see, 6-string Disciples up in the top chat, and he says, can you mix a wave or IR file in a DAW with EQ and high pass, low pass, and export a new IR? Yes. Short story is yes, you can. Would the result be as intended, or will you lose detail? No, the result should be as intended. Kevin Sir uses Audacity to do this kind of stuff, which I've never used, but you might look into Audacity for your DAW. I got to get that program. It's just a plugin or program or whatever that you use to you can do all kinds of things as far as exporting IRs and blends and things, and it seems to work really well. Let's see, we got someone else up there. Tom's up in the top chat, and he also sent me $6.66. Pure evil. I like it. Can you tell me? Can you tell my students that it takes time and dedication? I always tell them how I used to woodshed 10, 12 hours a day, every day in high school. Thanks, Tom. It's an interesting thing with the new generation, these kids these days. They people are used to everything now, like in instant and stuff like that. And I think there is a thing with like how we used to sort of work harder for things, and people were more patient. I mean, if you just watch TV shows from like the 80s, like how slow they are, like, and they used to be totally entertaining. We're so used to lots of stuff coming at us quickly now and fast. And so it's got to be difficult, I think, for younger people when you're growing up with all that to realize, like, wait a minute, I have to spend like 8 hours a day on something, like, to master. I think that's hard. I get it from both sides, But yeah, I mean, there's no substitute for the hours put in. It's that, like, the 10,000 hours thing, right? Like, there's no substitute for putting in the time. You just put in the time and you get good at something, and that's how it is. And some people have more of an aptitude for certain things than others. I totally believe that. Some people are I was terrible in math. I just always hated it, but I was a pretty good English student, and I was pretty good at guitar, when I was a kid. So other people, I taught a lot of students over the years, and it was like, some people I'd have come in and they could, for example, like rhythm, like strumming patterns, and having like steady rhythm and being able to keep your arm going like a pendulum. Some people got that from the first time I showed them. Other people, I worked on it with them for a year, and it was like, they just didn't absorb it. So everybody's different. It's important to keep that in mind too as students. I think you know that though, Tom. You have to work hard on things. There's no substitute for putting time in. Absolutely not. And so you can tell your students that I said so. Work hard. I want to show you this little pedal board that I took. You guys have seen this board before, but this is my little board that I've been, taking pedals on and off of for the last 10 years or however long I've had this thing. And so I put the Ecstasy Blue on there the other day, and I used this. This stuff all runs in front of this, so that the chain is kind of like here. I think it goes, it goes here to here to here to here to here, I think. Yeah. And so I can hit this with the Cocoa Boost and drive it harder for solos. But running an SL68 on 5, I had it on 5, and then I ran the master on the back on 7, the post-phase inverter master. This was my main kind of rhythm drive. The amp was crunchy a little bit, just as it was. With single coils, I could roll down to like 7 on the guitar and it would clean up. Hit it with this for rock and roll drive, and then hit it with this for all out solos and stuff. And this was great configuration the other day. It was awesome. And running the SL68 on 5, I can use the L cap stand and the flint in front and not have, it blows up the reverb and the delay a little bit because the amp's distorted a bit, but it was cool. Had a great tone, actually. I was really enjoying playing through it. There's a fellow up there in the top chat, and I'm sorry I can't say your name because it's in I think it might be Korean, but thanks for joining. And I'm sorry if it's not Korean, if it's something else, but I think it's Korean. I'm not 100% sure. You say you're using Torpedo Live for recording own hammer with our own hammer IRs, and should you upgrade to the aux strictly for recording? Is it a real step up in terms of sound quality? You know, like you can get great results out of a Torpedo Live and with own hammer IRs for sure, just for the pure speaker sounds and all that good stuff. Absolutely. The thing about the aux that is kind of hard to get around, that is just great. Just open up my iPad here and I'll make sure I'm on. I'm going to show you the thing I really love about the aux. Oh, it's not on. I need to turn it on. It's got to power up here. I was going to say, the thing I really love about it, though, is just the, wow, we got 595 people online. That might be a record. Just awesome. Thanks for being here, guys. The thing I love about it is in true UA fashion, well, first of all, it sounds great. And the plugins sound great. And the speaker stuff all sounds great. The plugins sound great. Like there's no scrimping on the sound quality. That's for sure. But beyond that, it's the interface, which UA does really, really well, like on all their plugins. And it's just, there's a sort of, I call it an elegant thing, but it's like a, I don't know. It's the same thing I liked about when I first got a Mac computer over a PC. There was this ease of flow of everything and getting it set up. It was just easy. So this is the aux little interface for iPad, which if you get it, you kind of got to have an iPad. Or I guess there's an app that you can get for the computer too, which I haven't even tried. But you know, I just went, all right, I'm getting this iPad if I'm going to do this. And so what you do for each cabinet, here's the cabinet that you pick. And if you want to pick a different one, you just go here, and then it gives you this selection of different cabs you can go through, right? And you just kind of drag them across, and I want to use that one. So we're going to use the one that I already had there. Let's say, oops, hit the wrong thing. I got to go back to rig. There we go. Done. And then these are your microphones, okay? And you can pick a bunch of different microphones, 57s or U67s or 421s, and you get 2 of them on each cabinet for close mics. You get an off-axis button that you can just hit, or, you know, and that'll give you a slightly different mic position, darker or brighter. And then you get a low cut that you can hit on each one. You got a solo button and a mute button. You get a pan because it's stereo. You get an EQ for each. So there's a little simple EQ that pops up for each microphone. You can just hit that if you want to, you know, cut some high end or do whatever you want to do. I keep hitting the wrong things. It's just hard to do with the. And then these are the room mics here. And that's the brilliant thing that this thing really gives you, is you can blend in just room mics at any level, either in mono or stereo. They give you a few different kinds. I love that. I mean, just the ability to blend in this stereo. It's because, you know, who's got a room to record in? Not very, very few people. So you can get a realistic, like really cool roomy thing going with the room mics. And then you've got this stuff over here, a master EQ on the output that you can have on or off. You got an 1176 style compressor here that you can do on the output. Great for clean sounds and just adding a little bit of, you know, snap and punch and stuff. You get a simple delay here that can also serve as a flanger or a chorus. For some simple modulation, you can do it in mono, ping pong, whatever you want. Simple controls here for high cut and low cut. I mean, you can dial in a delay really quickly. The only thing that bothers me, that really kind of I find difficult, is setting the delay time. And if somebody out there knows how to do this different than what I know, but the only way I know how to do it is by turning the knobs here. And it's really difficult to get a delay time dialed in at just the point I want, because my finger jitters when I take it off the iPad and then it goes up to the next, you know what I mean? So that's a little tough. There should be a tap tempo, I think. So that's one improvement I think that they could make. And then you get a plate reverb, which sounds glorious. So really awesome. So it's just this ease of dialing in mics and cabs. And, you know, also this, I should mention, there's this, speaker drive control here that simulates driving a cabinet harder, or so by just dragging it up and down, I can get a, you know, like a speaker that's brand new and not driven hard, or speakers that are tired and older by turning it all the way up. It just depends, you know. Very, 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 very simple to use. And this is the thing, you know, is if you mount, you can get a mount for your iPad and put it right on your desk right here, and then just dial, you know, like with the amp plugged in. And I find it really just kind of like an elegant, simple way to dial in a cabinet sound. So that's what I really like about the aux. course, you're going to be able to get great sounds out of, you know, your two notes, and they make great stuff too. Really terrific. And they've got their own stuff, you know, their own effects. And I haven't used, to be honest, the two notes software that much in recent times, but I have a cab here. So I'm about to make a video for the new cab M unit. And so I'll be discovering more about it myself pretty soon here. Mark is in the top chat, and he says, thinking about ordering both Nags Stevens models with a figured back. How much would this affect the tone? I've seen it on Les Pauls, but not Super Strat. Sorry, I don't really understand the question, Mark. You're thinking about ordering both Nags Stevens models with figured backs. How much would this affect the tone? I've seen it on Les Pauls, but not Super Strats. I didn't know. So Nags is making a Stevens Super Strat. I don't even know that. The wood won't affect whether wood's figured or not won't affect tone at all. It's a purely aesthetic. So, but maybe if there's another component to your question I'm not getting, please hit me back here, and I'll see if I can answer it more or better. And David says, hey, Pete, Robert Baker plugging your record, top quality. Absolutely. Robert Baker's a great guy, and he's so kind. He made this video this week and mentioned my record talking about it. And I really appreciate that, Robert. Thank you. Hopefully Robert's still here. He was in the chat. Let's see here. Let's see. Looking down further through the chat. Find another question. Man, I am far behind, so I'm sorry. I'm going to move down a little bit here. Okay, Pete, when are you going to get together and make another instrumental song with Steve Stevens? That's from Braxall. I like the one that you have and would love to see another. I'd love any chance to work with Steve. I love. He's always busy. He's always doing stuff. He's got his new band with Geezer Butler and Matt Sorum and Frankie Perez singing. You know, so look out for those guys. They're going to do a bunch of European festivals coming up soon. But yeah, he's playing with Geezer, which is rad. I can't wait to hear more material than just the one I've heard. I've only heard the one song, so, but I think they're going on tour and doing all the summer festivals in Europe. I think Rock, AM Ring, you know, IM Park, and all those, whatever they're called. And Christopher says, love that dark rosewood neck on that Sir Classic. Yes, always look for that. Yeah, I like dark rosewood too. I'm always a fan of when they make me a Sir. I'm always like, give me the dark piece. I want dark rose. I don't like the light rosewood. Sometimes you see on like. If I see a Les Paul and it's really beautiful and everything, but it's got that light, it just bothers me. I don't know, because nobody ever used to use that. Wayne's up in the top chat, and thank you, man, for doing that. He didn't send; he just went in the top chat and sent me $5, and I really appreciate it. I can afford another coffee now. Thank you, my friend. Isn't that crazy how much coffee costs these days? It's like it's the smartest thing in the world was to start selling coffee. You know, when you think about a record, it's hard to sell for $9.99 anymore, but I'm happy to pay $5 for a coffee. What am I, crazy, right? It's like we all spend so much. If you drink coffee, that is. Mark's up in the top chat, and he says, adding a maple back like the top, so it's figured on front and back. I assume it's veneer, but it's maple, so I'm wondering if the tone will change much. I'd really doubt it. I see what you're saying. They probably use a fairly thin veneer for a maple back on a guitar. You're saying it's got a mahogany core, right? And you're going to get, I don't think the tone will change noticeably if it's already got a maple top. I don't think so. Yeah. Okay, moving down. The chat jumped all the way to the end. So now I'm going to back up just a little bit. Oh, McKinley was in the top chat. I missed him. I'm sorry, McKinley. And he said, thoughts on Novo guitars. I don't know anything about them. I'm sorry. I have no knowledge of Novo guitars. Do you guys know about those? All right. Let's see. Do I like older preamps like PV Rockmaster, Voodoo Valve, MP1? That's Steve. And you know, I've messed with the Rockmaster quite a bit because I used to work in a music store that sold them. And what else have I mean, I've got an Egnator here, one of the ones with the interchangeable modules. What other preamps? I had the Randall preamp for a long time. I liked it with the modules and the 50-watt stereo power amp. I used that on a tour. And you're talking about quite a bit older, like the MP1. I mean, MP1 is kind of they need to make an MP1 pedal. Is there one? I thought they were coming out with one in a pedal, but that'd be a real cool pedal that if nobody's tackled, I think they should. I thought they were coming out with one in a pedal. I seem to remember that, but the MP1 was neat. I mean, I remember when it came out and Paul Gilbert started using it, it was like, oh, modded high gain and a preamp where you can store presets. That was kind of a new thing. The other one I remember is the Lee Jackson Perfect Connection, which, you know, the furor around like and kind of excitement around mods. It was like 1987, 88, and everybody was talking about mods, and all these guys like Jose and Lee Jackson, and it was like everybody wanted a modded Marshall, you know. And so I got this Lee Jackson Perfect Connection preamp, and this local music store let me take it home for a couple of days, and I plugged it into the front of my Marshall or maybe into the effects loop, and I was able to kind of get a cool sound. But I seem to remember thinking like, this isn't quite as cool as I thought it was going to be. But I'd like to try one again. It was kind of a neat, had a mid shift knob on it and all these mid range frequencies. And anyway. Let's see. Can you set the delay time using the keyboard? I haven't been able to figure it out. That was Hotcha in the chat talking about, I think, the delay time on the UA aux. That I don't know how to. If you know a way to do it, let me know, because I haven't been able to find a way other than just by turning the knob to set the delay time. Not that I've actually looked that hard, but you know, upon sort of first glance, I can't find another way to set it. Yeah. Moving down. Music Therapy says, what's up, everybody? Just joining the chat. Welcome, Music Therapy. And Renaissance Man says he loves tube amps, but no more space and need good recording platform. So Fractal Axe Effects looks great. Yeah, absolutely. Axe Effects is a terrific idea. Kemper could work for you. The Helix, you know, they're all good. You just got to try and see what you like. The Axe Effects, I mean, it's a deep device. The Axe Effects to me is the deepest and with the most extensive effects capability. And my experience in using an Axe Effects was that the more I tweaked, the better it got. So like spending time on tweaking effects in, like, okay, I want to get a great Leslie sound and I want it like fast and slow Leslie. And I'd spend some time. And then I go, well, what if I added a little bit of echo to that? And what if I like it, but I wish the mid-range was different. So then I'd add an EQ and like make the mids poke out. But it wasn't this thing where I was going down a rabbit hole and it like wasn't as good as whatever I did 15 minutes ago. It was always like, holy shit, like this is getting really good. And so you'd kind of go down that rabbit hole and like tweak, but it would always get better and better and better. That was my experience with the Axe Effects. So although it is a learning curve, getting used to one, and it's a pretty deep device, I definitely recommend using the computer editor because it makes it so much easier. Like just paging through the menus and stuff on the front, I'm not a fan of, but using the editor to make the presets, I always like that. But my experience with the Axe Effects was that I could always get deeper and deeper and deeper, and the sounds would be getting better and better. So I think that's a positive thing, you know. Hadn't had that result with many devices. You spend all this time with them. You're like, you know, if you're 45 minutes deep into something, you're like, this is just frustrating. And I feel like I've spent all this time on something I don't even really like the sound. But the Axe Effects would be like, I spent all this time on the sound, but it's keeps improving and I'm actually enjoying it. So Tim Corder is up in the top chat. I have one here, by the way, a 3, and I still have to get into it. It's right here in my rack, and I need to devote like a couple days of time to it. I feel like I can really get deep into it. And I want to, the Axe Effects people have been very, very nice to me over the years, and I don't feel like I've done very much for them in return, at least in the past 5 or 6 years. And it's my intention on the Axe Effects 3 to actually play, much like I did with my song Homage from my first solo album. I want to pick a song from Pete Thorn 2, make presets on the Axe Effects 3, and then perform the whole song like I did, you know, on the Axe Effects 3. I want to make a video of that. That's upcoming video down the road. Will be an all Axe Effects video of some song from my new record where I play all the parts on the Axe Effects. So I've been meaning to do that. Tim Corder says, thanks for hanging out with us. He's up in the top chat. Thank you, Tim. He says, if you always kept one guitar in E flat, which I do, would you go up in string gauge compared to standard tuning? Interesting question. Sometimes it is cool. Like now I'm kind of on to 9.5s. That's kind of my thing now. So 10s in E flat is pretty cool, you know, I think. But you can also just go, it's open to interpretation. I don't know, like if you want to do that or not. If I go down to like C sharp on a guitar, I do generally go with heavier strings. I'll use a like drop C sharp or something like that. I'll go with you know, at least a 52 on the low E, you know, generally speaking. So I like to do that. Sometimes not if I'm just in a quick and easy. You know, Ty Tabor doesn't do that. He uses 9s, I think, and he'll tune them all the way down to drop C sharp, and he makes it work. So it's just a sound. Yep, not available is in the top chat, and he says Telly with 10s tuned to E flat. Truss rod has been loosened as much as possible, unable to get the desired amount of relief. Suggestions. That's a tough one, dude. So in other words, his neck on his Telly is bowing backwards, right? And he's got 10s on it, and truss rod's been loosened all the way. It's a hard one, man. I mean, you kind of need to, if you really want to keep that neck on that guitar, you kind of, there's, you know, heat is one thing I've seen people do where they apply heat to the fingerboard and try and get the neck to flex. You can have it refretted and pull. So you pull the frets and then you have the neck planed. You have the fingerboard planed, and you can get some more relief out of it that way. But that would be a great question for a really, really good tech. It wouldn't be a job I would leave up to just anybody. And the question becomes, do I just re-neck the guitar? It's a Telly. You can put another neck on it, you know, and you know, that's one way to go with it. But it's a shitty problem, man. And I had that problem on a Charvel that I loved the guitar in the 80s. And I did this heat thing where we applied heat to the neck and it loosened the glue under the fingerboard. So the fingerboard was actually coming off. And I was like, oh, God. And we put it back together and it was cool, but it kind of, I think it kind of worked, but it was never really the same to me. I felt like, I can't remember why. This is 30 years ago. So, but that one guitar, I remember having that problem. The tech, he wanted to loosen the, and it also had the issue where, you know, with the old Charvels where the headstock joined the neck and it had the, I don't know if anybody remembers, but it's hard to explain, but the headstock kind of glued into the neck. And there was this U sort of shape of the joint of the way they put those headstocks on. So when the guy was doing the work and heating the neck and trying to make it flex, the fingerboard was coming loose. And I also seem to remember the headstock was, and it was like the neck was going to fall apart. He managed to get it back together. But I just had this thing about that neck after. So I ended up selling it. That sucked because it was an old, you know, San Dimas neck. And it had an ebony fingerboard. That's what it was. And so it's a very stiff wood, you know, ebony. And it just didn't have enough relief. The maple and the ebony was like too strong, and it just wouldn't. It never had enough. So anyway, it's a screwed problem. I would almost recommend trying to get another neck maybe for the guitar before going through all that work. You know, it's a Telly. I get a. You know, if it's a real Fender neck and it's a warranty thing, and newer guitar, maybe they'll fix it for you or re-neck it. If it's an older guitar, you could get a licensed by Fender Warmoth neck for it, or have a luthier make something, you know, I don't know. That's probably the route I would take. I would probably do a new neck, to be honest. Robert says, your live stream is the pinnacle of my week. Oh man. I feel bad about that. Well, you got to have more fun during your week than hanging with me. But thanks, Robert. You're up in the top chat, and I really appreciate it, dude. I'm just kidding. I'm really happy you enjoy this. I do too. I enjoy the hell out of this every week. I do. You say, do the front panel settings for the PT15 match up with the PT100? Kind of the, you know, it's a different amp, but kind of the EQ, not really. You know, the gain level, I would say, yeah, like on channel 2 and 3 for sure. The clean channel is different though. It's a completely different clean channel, much more akin to the one in the Bella. And the EQ is different a little bit. I find that it's John, you know, he doesn't tell me exactly what he's doing when he's making these things. It's like, okay, I've got the amp together, come down and try it. And John has a general love of real full tones. And I sometimes like my sound's a little bit thinner in the bass than he does. But I totally humor his, you know, because he's John Suhr and so I'll always listen, you know. And so in the new amp, I think maybe there's more bass in the front end of channel 2 and 3 than maybe what we had in the PT100. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I think. Well, however he designed the circuit, it seems a little fuller. I want to run the bass on 3 or 4, but it sounds great set like that. So it's like I'm like, it's fine, you know, I'm just leaving it the way it is. And it's awesome. But in the PT100, I tend to set the bass on 4 or 4.5. And this amp I want it on 4, and it's a 15-watt amp, or maybe a little lower. So, but certain people, you know, for an old school tone, like you know, if you're using lower gain, doing ZZ Top sounds or something like that, that's going to be cool, like that fullness on the. So I like it, but I think, long story short, that the EQ is maybe, you know, what your exact settings would be on a PT100, maybe slightly different than the way that I set the 15. So, long story short, you can start with all the knobs on 5 and then go from there, just like on the 100, which always sounds great to me. I love that I can put the knobs on 5 and then kind of tweak. You know, that's what I always shoot for on the amps. I think that if too extreme on a setting is like kind of a drag to me on a modern amp. It's like, if you can put everything on 5 and then you kind of tweak everything from, you know, somewhere between 3.5 to 7, it should be the widest sweep that you should move to get your sound, and you'll find it in there somewhere. That's how I like it. You know, for gain and everything. Like, I don't need to ever have the gain on the amp more than on 7, really. It's especially live when there was some volume going. I had tons of gain and sustain at that point. So anyway, move down here. What do we got? I'm far back in the chat again. Let's see. Yellow guitars sound better, says Gap Lover. That could be. Have I used, or how do I feel about the Gig Rig G2? That's from Tommy. I know it's got a lot of loyal, you know, fans, the Gig Rig, and that's Daniel from, that's Dan from That Pedal Show, and he's a great guy, and he knows what he's doing. I haven't tried it or done a rig with it. It's a little bigger than, like, it wouldn't fit on my board, which I have down there. It's just, you know, one of the things I like about the switcher, let me just show you. I can just pick it up and show you. A little too big to easily do, but so this is my main board, right? And one of the things I love about the switcher is the size. So it's the same size as a Boss ES8. I got this cable here because this is how I plug in the PT15 now to do the channel switching. Function jack on the back of this. But see, that's something, like, I've got room in here because of the way that I move this cable out of the way, you can see where all the jacks are and stuff. I can get to the back of stuff because this thing's so narrow. So that's one of the things, obviously, the size of this board. So the Gig Rig is bigger than this switcher. And obviously I've got mini pedals on here. You know, I'm kind of limited I wanted to keep to a certain size on this board. And it's 30, board's 30 inches wide, I think. So, because of that, you know, that's always a concern, you know, and that'll play just as much of a role in determining, like, what switcher I can use as anything. I've got an RJM too that I would love to use because I love their products, and it's a really great switcher. A little too big for that board. But Daniel's a great guy, and he knows what he's doing. If you built a board around the Gig Rig, I know people love it. I mean, he's got a lot of loyal followers and stuff, and I have no doubt that it sounds great and probably works just great. I've also used the Musicom. Hyung Woo from Musicom has been a loyal supporter of mine for like years and years and years. All going back to the Mark II Plus or something it was called, I think, and then the Mark III. And is this the 4 or 5? I don't know. I had one of his. I mean, I'm going back like 3 generations of switchers. I've used his switchers for a long time, so I'm used to the way they're laid out and programming them and stuff. You know, and he's also Mulan, great pedal company from, you know, he's from Korea. So it's just one of those things where I'm used to using it, and, you know, I've had a long association with the guy in the company, and so I just stick with him. Jules is up in the top chat. Thanks, Jules. He says, what input did you and Tim Pierce give Vemoram and Ibanez on the the new TSV 808 pedal? Do you think his pedal achieves greatness in the deep category it's in? You know, it sounds great to me. I mean, the one that they made sounds terrific. They brought by, so Ibanez and Vemoram came by with 5 unmarked prototypes, and Tim and I and Mateus Asado all played them at my place here. And that was, I don't know, probably 6 months before NAMM, something like that. and they wanted feedback and what we thought of each individual one. And we all picked one or two of them, and we all kind of gravitated towards one or two, and we're like, we like these ones. So we did have something to do with the, they showed us 5 prototypes and we narrowed it down to 2, and I'm not sure what they did beyond that. The pedal that I got, I think it sounds more, and I haven't been able to play through it a ton. Actually, I need to play through it some more, but it sounds more Jan Ray to me than Tube Screamer almost. So I think it's unique in the Tube Screamer category. It's got its own thing going on, but just when I think about it, it's less of that kind of, a Tube Screamer is kind of a thinner drive that lops off bottom end and has that little layer of clean going on all the time. This pedal sounds more full to me, and maybe capable of more drive. As this is what I'm making this stuff up, but this is my impression of plugging it in. Maybe capable of more like drive and like a fuller overall sort of spectrum to it, which sort of sounds like Jan Ray to me, right? It sort of felt like a lot like playing through Jan Ray to me, probably with some more Tube Screamery MIDI components to the tone. But anyway. Let's see. Music Therapy Laz says, I bought the 2 notes. Money basically pushed me over the aux. He got a captor for attenuation and cab for IRs, and figured I can put cab on my pedal board for direct front of house. Absolutely. 2 notes makes great products, and in the price, like you say, sometimes it's about the cost, right? Like if people are like, well, Sir Reactive Load or the aux, well, a huge consideration is the cost. So one is going to work for some people, one's going to work for other people, just purely budget. And 2 notes falls kind of in the middle. And the reality is you can get great tones out of all of them, and there's some different features and stuff like that. You just have to see what's important to you. I'm excited to try the two notes, the new what's it called? The new 2 notes cab M dealio I have. Here it is. I'll just get it. Oh God, I'm gonna drop some pedals. No, I'm not. I managed to pull it off, literally and figuratively. There it is. The God, why is that so bright? I can't. Something to do with the white of the pedal. I can't make it quite work for you guys. But that's the pedal, and so I look forward to plugging this in, and I guess I'll use it with Sir Reactive Load unfiltered out, and we'll hook this thing up and get some sounds. I haven't. It was other pedals. I haven't had a chance to really get into their software for a long time, so I want to get into the software and try that and see what it's like now, because I know there's all kinds of new stuff going on with that. So, but video of that coming soon. I think they want it within like a couple of weeks, so I better get on it this coming week maybe. Let's see. This is the first time catching the broadcast for the Guitar Man. What's up, Guitar Man? He's in the chat. And he says, fortunately, up to now, I've only been able to catch the videos after the broadcast. Love the show. Thank you. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. And Robert's Guitar Dungeon says, hi, Pete. Any YouTube tips? I've been stagnant around 10,000 subscribers for a while now and can't seem to get over the next hump. It's hard, man. One of the things you can do is collaborate with other YouTubers. So if people are doing YouTube and you can somehow make a video with other YouTube people, it helps to reach each other's subscriber base and that kind of thing. So that's helpful. Both times I went to GitCon, I collaborated with other YouTube people. That definitely, I saw my subscriber numbers go up and stuff. And, so that's helpful if you do YouTube for sure. That's probably the number one thing I found. But you also have to make videos that resonate with a wide audience. It's part of the reason why I'm trying to do the new, So You Want to Be a Pro Musician series, because I feel like, well, with this, I can reach drummers and keyboard players and singers and songwriters and production people. It's not just so guitar pedal centric, guitar players only. It's useful information. I hope that I can give for anybody that wants to, do music. So as a profession. So that's why I'm trying to come up with other ideas. You have to come up with ideas that nobody else is doing or that not a lot of other people are doing. Unique content and working with other YouTube people. Those are my number one tips, I would say, for widening your subscriber base. Tim is up in the top chat and he says, Pete, on the Marshall Coda app, I tap on the knob display setting, keyboard appeared, and I could direct type the setting desired. Maybe same for aux. There's no keyboard on the aux, really. I I don't think there's a way to do that, but I know what you're saying, and I'll look into it, see if there's any other, any other way to do it. Thanks for thinking about it and trying to help me out with it. Let's see here. The Sonic Solution. Oh, no, that's not a question. That's you guys talking amongst yourselves. Dr. Cheeseburger says, God, I could use a cheeseburger right now. I'm hungry. He says, I'm trying to slowly get through your 5-minute lesson video on alternate picking and speed. I found out I really suck at that stuff. Would like to get better. Yeah, and as I stated in the video, I got a lot from like Paul Gilbert and Steve Morse. And so watch any of their videos on picking and alternate picking and stuff, and it should be helpful. But yeah, just take your time on it. Slowly you say you're slowly doing it. That's great. Work with a metronome, always with a metronome. You got to put the metronome on and push yourself a little bit every day. Like even if you just go up a couple clicks on the metronome every day for whatever the exercise you're working on is, but record yourself and make sure every note is clean. That's the main thing, is don't fudge on you can't, it's got to be that. And that's how you get it. That's strict kind of, really clean every single note. And as you get faster, try and lighten up more. That's the other thing I can say, is try and use be more efficient with your movement, is what I should say. Maybe don't pick quite as hard, and it's all about efficiency of motion, like really fast alternate picking, efficiency on the left hand too, making sure your fingers don't come way off the neck, in between notes. It's like you got to keep them. You only got a limited amount of time. The quicker you go to hit each note and then get to the next one, so you have to be really efficient and just practice with a metronome. It's the main thing. Once again, there's no substitute for time. That's a great example of where you just got to put the time in. But it shouldn't really take that long, I don't think. Like 6 months of concerted sort of dedicated practice with a metronome, and you can improve from the time I guess I was young, so there's that. But I mean, I was like 16 or 17. My picking chops went to the roof when those Paul Gilbert videos came out, and I worked really hard on them. Do I know if the Mesa Boogie tremolo verb is too loud for low volume jamming? That's from the Ruiner 781. Well, I mean, even high power amps with a good master volume, you turn them down. Like, what do you consider low volume? Is like bedroom volume. If it's a 100-watt amp or something, I hate sitting generally these days and playing it through a cabinet. It's too much power to me to sit there with a guitar cab and, sorry, I got to eat. Starving. I got in here late today. This is a bad choice because it's so chewy. Sorry. Anyway, like I enjoy playing more through a plug-in for that kind of thing, or a modeling amp. I really do. Okay. Mark says, building an amp rack like you have, what do you use for longer power and speaker cables, brand and store? Can you speak on that Marshall behind you? The Marshall stock, it's basically stock 71 super lead circuit. Modified the bright cap. That's about it, because it was so aggressively bright, the cap in it. So Friedman put a different cap in it for me. The main thing with speaker cables, you need a thick gauge, real heavy. Like, I don't know what gauge I have. I think it's 13 gauge or 12 gauge is good. For the longer speaker cable you go, you want heavier gauge. So I've got an 80-foot speaker cable running from the amp racks here to another room that I still have yet to get my cabinets wired up and doing stuff in there. But I got the cable run actually, and it's 80 feet long and it's 13 gauge, I think. So pretty good, hefty. You can totally run. I mean, every major studio does that. They've all got like super duper long cable runs for speaker cable. You just have to use heavy gauge stuff. Power cable. I'm not an esoteric, fancy power cable guy. I don't subscribe to that. I know some people do, but to me, it's a waste of money, because it's like, well, what about the cable in your wall? Like the cable running to all the cable wiring, is like the rest of you don't even, Anyway, my top chat went by, says Tom, sorry, Tom, are you using the Friedman Pedalboard? Sorry if I missed it, dude. He's up in the top chat there, Mr. Tom, and he says he wants to know about my pedalboard. Friedman Pedalboard. Yes, sir. That's right. It's a 30 by I don't know what. But I love the Friedman pedalboards. They're great. They're lightweight, and he kind of improved upon a lot of other things. Other people have made great strides. I used to use the trailer trash board. It was good. But this new Friedman board is really nice. It's kind of customizable with the risers and stuff, and it's really nice that way. I think it's great. So no reservations about that. And get yours with the buffer bay if you can, because it works great. Hard question. Favorite Sabbath riff? The Mob Rules is probably correct. Yeah, down, down. You know, Mob Rules is. I love Dio era Sabbath. I do. Both Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell. You know, that's a great one too. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to beat. As simple as it is, it was just for the time. It was like nobody did anything like that. It was evil and wonderful. Evil and wonderful. That's gonna be the title of my next solo album. Okay, oh, I already answered that. Okay, moving down. Do I like Pro Tools or analog tape for recording? That's a tricky question. 30 by 15 for my pedalboard. I think that's right. I think it's 30 by 15. That's from Tom again. I think it's the biggest one I think he makes. Oh, and David Smith says Reb Beach's DVD was good too. I agree. That was good. Reb is a great guitar player. Plays PT100s, by the way. Okay, Pro Tools or analog tape? Advantages and disadvantages. Obvious advantages and disadvantages. I mean, Pro Tools, you got all this flexibility and it's cheap, or any kind of computer recording. I use Logic. I don't use Pro Tools. But analog tape, anytime you can record the analog tape is a magical, fun throwback memory experience where it's just like, the great thing about analog is you don't have to work that hard. If you got a good machine and an engineer that knows what they're doing, like the tape machine's good and it's maintained and the heads are clean and all that stuff, you just kind of put the mics where you think they're supposed to be and get some levels and stuff, and then you pull up the faders and you do a take and then go in and listen. You're like, that sounds friggin' awesome. It's just like, you know, analog tape is like the sonic glue where it's affecting the sound in a really wonderful way that just sounds like what we want to hear. I don't know how else to describe it. With digital recording, what goes in is what comes out. Used to be, I mean, when converters got so much better, like in the early days, man, it was hard. Like working with ADATs and stuff, we were all like, great, we can get a digital 8-track. That's amazing. And then you'd get it and go like, why does it sound weird? You know, everybody had Mackie console and 1 or 2 ADATs or maybe DA88s, which sounded a little better to me. You kids out there, you won't even know what we're talking about. But digital tape recorders, you know. But anyway, 16-bit, you know, the first ADATs and all that, they just kind of sounded, the converters were shitty and everything sounded like it was out here, like way far away. And it's like, why can't I get like that sound where everything's in my face? I don't know. It was hard. Nowadays, converters sound great. It's just, but still with digital recording, of course, is what you put in is exactly what you get out. And if you want to affect that at all in any kind of way to make it sound analog and pleasing, you have to use, you know, plugins or stuff on the way in. What happened was the front end with recording became very important, especially when using the ADATs and stuff. So that's when you started seeing, mic pre's and tube mic pre's and tube compressors and stuff that, you know, people didn't really talk, like 1176s and stuff. That wasn't shit that was like that popular. Like, you know, like you could buy 1176s for $300, like in like the 80s, you know, it wasn't a big deal. And then all of a sudden it became like, ooh, like you need good compressors and good, because everybody was trying to run through stuff to get some more of the sound back that you could kind of easily get with analog tape. So yeah, it was just easier. Like, you know, you get a couple of 414s for overheads on your drums and you know, a 421 in the kick and 57s on the toms or whatever you get, and you could just like print that to, you know, on a 3M machine, like not even a great you know, an Amperex or something like that, or whatever they were called, Ampex, you know, the 16 track or 24 track machine. I have friends with studios that had these things, you know, with a you know, Allen and Heath board or something, or like a Soundcraft, but not even great. And it always sounded great. You just record and go, yeah, that sounds great. You do a couple basics, good sound. And then it got harder when it was all Mackies and ADATs in the 90s. All of a sudden, it was like, if you want to hear a record that kind of sounds, and it's a great record, but it's like, it kind of has that sound. It's Jagged Little Pill by Alanis. You know, listen to the sounds, like try and divorce, you know, she was, you know, doing great shit at the time and stuff like that, but the sound of the album is like, it's a weird sound to me, you know, sound of that record. It's just sonics or whatever. It was like, whoa. Okay. All right. Moving down. Christian Ice says he's got 3 ADATs collecting dust. Anybody want them? No, but thank you. Would you consider having guests, other guitarists on every so often to interview and just chit chat with them about their experiences? Yeah, I mean, I would. That's from Jazzy Girl. I totally would. This is just a thing that I kind of like wake up Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and then I run over here and, just kind of get it going. So it's not a thing where I'm very organized or anything like that. Anytime you get guests involved, and it's like ends up being something like it's more, but I love the kind of like off the cuff kind of and that people seem to like it. So, which is, I keep it kind of loose because of that. It's relatively easy for me to do in the current way. But yeah, if it ever gets to the point where people are like, this is boring, I'm going to have to spice it up a bit and get some guests or something, right? Let's see here. Rodrigo says, so I need question. You have a question. Rodrigo says, did Chris Cornell use PT channel 2 or 3? He used all 3 channels. So Chris was using PT 100s on the last Soundgarden tour. One of mine, actually. One of the ones that I use on tour. But he bought 2 heads. So he had one in his home studio, and then he bought one for the road, and then I lent him another one for the road, one of mine, and one of my cabinets too. So on the last Soundgarden tour, he had one of my heads and cabinets. And was really liking using the PT100s. He used to use divided by 13s, which he still loved, I think. And Fred makes great amps, but he wanted to just try something else. And I got him one of the heads and he loved it. So he was switching through all 3 channels as I understood it. And sometimes he would use like the clean channel on one and one of the dirty channels on the other. But he was just getting started with them. He literally, that Soundgarden tour, they were out for a couple months or something like that. And he had like 3 days in rehearsal with them. So he didn't have a lot of time. So to be honest, we were still like working out all the kinks. 2 days before he passed away, I was on the phone with those guys talking about like a MIDI cable issue for they had a MIDI cable problem when we were sorting it out and stuff. It ended up being a bad MIDI cable, but so we were just working out the kinks in the rig. So to be honest, I don't know exactly what he was doing but we did converse a little bit, and he was saying he was enjoying blending. Like he wasn't using them as stereo, but he was running them both at the same time, and he'd like to blend like a clean channel and a dirty channel on the other one and stuff like that. So he was using them in kind of a unique way. Yeah. Okay. Moving down. Chat jumped to the end. Just trying to figure out where I was. Sorry about that. Let's see. David Smith says he loved Dio. Saw him with Vivian Campbell. Yeah, Vivian was great playing with Dio for sure. Is the Kemper effects processor good for a bedroom player? Sure. Once again, the Kemper to me is all about the profiles that you put into it. It's kind of like a sampler in that way. I think of the Kemper is reliant on the profiles, and I'm not even sure what they include with it these days. But to me, there's great profiles out there. There's plenty of people who made a little cottage industry out of making profiles for the Kemper. So it's a great sounding unit. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, moving down. Let's see. In your opinion, what is the most overrated gear, guitar, or pedal in the last 10 years? Overrated. That's not a question I've ever had before. I'd have to really think about it. I don't know. Give me some time on that. I mean, I think it's hard to make things that suck these days, or things that are hyped up as being the greatest thing and then like don't live up, because there's so many other things. There's so many things coming out now that it's hard to have substandard. Like I always use the coffee example, for example, like with Starbucks, the one thing that they did do was they brought decent coffee to pretty much anywhere. So whereas before, it might have been hard to find a shitty cup of coffee before it might have been hard to find a good cup of coffee in many places. shitty coffee was everywhere, and it was like that was just the norm, right? Like coffee that you got, like you know what I'm talking about, just Folgers or whatever was what people made before in restaurants and stuff. That became impossible after Starbucks came out because it was like they were everywhere, and now it's like, how do you sell crappy coffee? Because there's decent coffee, you know. You just go out of business selling bad or substandard coffee. I feel like that's how it is with guitar stuff now. If you put out a substandard pedal or a guitar, people talk about it on the internet. There's new stuff coming out every week anyway. It's like, it's not going to last. It has to be exceptional in order to which, by the way, when somebody was asking about YouTube videos and how do they get more subscribers and stuff like that for the YouTube channel, it's the same thing with YouTube. There's so much good content on YouTube now that you really have to think outside the box and make good stuff, or your stuff's just going to get pushed by the wayside. Nobody's going to watch, right? So used to be like, you could get away with probably putting out stuff that wasn't that interesting or what. Now it's almost like releasing music. You have to put out exceptional stuff, or it's like there's just too much coming out all the time. Everybody can make a record now. Everybody can have a YouTube channel. Everybody can, and it's, if you don't do something interesting, you're not going to stand out. So I actually don't think there's a lot of gear out there that has been hyped and stayed popular and stuff like that maybe doesn't deserve it. Cause it's like, I think that the climate just takes care of that. You know what I mean? So moving along. Let's see. Hey, Pete, if you were to create a signature speaker, what model would you choose as a starting point to build from? That's a great question. That's from Wendell. So what I would do is a greenback. The one thing that I think is missing these days that's different, and this is just, I don't know a hell of a lot about this, but I know that the thing that has changed with speakers is that you can't necessarily get the paper that they used to use. So I would be really wanting to investigate like exactly what was going on with the paper from whatever they were using Celestions in the 60s, and see if I think that's kind of the only difference. And I've just been told that it's difficult to get the same paper. So I don't know, maybe you make a boutique speaker where you have that exact paper recreated or something. But it would be greenback, and I would want to make like a regular 25 watt version, and then also like a high power, maybe 50 or 65 watt version or something like that of a speaker. And that would be the thing I would investigate, like the trying to find original paper. Get super geeky. What else have we got here? Let's see. Is it easy for you to keep clean this room? This room looks cleaner than it actually. I've got stuff stacked up on my table back there. It's a mess right now because I just got in from a gig and kind of dropped it all. Anytime I got to play a gig, when people ask me to play, I'm like stoked to go out and play. And then it's like, but I know this is going to be a pain in the ass because I got to get it. You'd think I'd have it figured out by now, but it's like I don't have a PT-15, which I used at my club gig a couple weeks ago because I had to give it back to Sir. Because they need it for doing the R&D and stuff to get building the new ones that the regular production one. So I was like, what am I going to bring? And I'm like, I don't want to bring a PT-100, but I ended up taking the SL68 actually. And it's like I come up with a different rig for every gig when I got to go do a local gig. So I brought my little pedalboard SL68 and a couple guitars or whatever. But anyway, I'm going to tear my studio up to do that and put it back together. It's not that hard to keep this room clean though. No. I'm trying to not fill it up too much with stuff. These microphones and things that are over here are all going to go in the other room pretty soon here. Get some cabs mic'd up and stuff. Moving down. What new color is coming on the PT Sig? We do have a new color. It won't be out till summer, but we're going to do another color. I want to keep it a surprise. And the lamp is straight now, says Yangnet. Yeah, the lamp's cool back there. My lamp, I've had it crooked for a while. What else we got here? When am I coming to Seattle again, says AK. Hi, AK. I'd love to come up there again. I fly through there sometimes to go home. I'm from Edmonton, and so if I fly on Alaska Airlines, they go through Seattle. So I make a quick stop there, and I eat at the place in the airport where you can get a good crab salad or clam chowder, that kind of thing. It's like a seafood place, and I enjoy that every time. but I don't get into Seattle much. It's been a minute since I've hung out. I guess the last time would be when I toured there with Melissa Etheridge. And that was a number of years ago. It's probably been 5 years or something, way too long. Yeah. Music Therapy says he had a studio in the 90s with a 32 channel Mackie running through Session 8 into ADATs and using Cakewalk as a sequencer. We all did it. We all had our, I had DA88, 16 track DA88 set up in the 90s with a Soundcraft Ghost console. That was what I was using. But, you know, it was a pain in the ass, that setup. I mean, it worked great. The Ghost was great. But the setup that I have now, the great thing, the way we can work now is like with the ability to do drums in the box and stuff, and, you know, plug in and get a great bass sound in the box and stuff, and then, you know, use amps and load boxes and things. I can get stuff done so much faster than I used to in the 90s. You know, I had a full-blown, like the whole living room of a house was a studio, basically, with drums and a piano, and we had everything set up with this roommate I had, and it was a real cool thing. But you had to make noise, like it was like loud to do drums, you know. So there's only limited times you could do that when you're living with other people, and yeah, you know, it was just difficult. Nowadays we can get great work done and practically all on headphones if you need to. So it's just faster and it's cool. And I still miss, of course, the old days of the big studios. Do I think the MXR Phase 95 is just as good as the hand-wired 74 Phase 90? This would probably make a good video. That's from Chris Cam. You know, I have a vintage Phase 90 is on that board that I showed you guys, the little one. I've got the Phase 95. I've got the Eddie Van Halen one. I got the 74 hand-wired one. I got the 90s block logo ones. I think I have more Phase 90s than any other pedal. So I should make a Phase 90 shootout, shouldn't I? Where all things equal, we listen to them all and pick out the strengths, and it's a pretty good idea, actually. Maybe I don't really have a good answer for you. If it's I love the Phase 95 because it gets me that sound, and it's sort of close enough, and it's on the board, and I can fit it, you know. But it would be interesting to compare all these phasers. Let's see. I'm gonna move down. Synergy modules, says Ramon. Like, do I like them? I guess. You know, I like the Synergy idea. And like, as I say, I got a Randall M4 preamp. So going back then, the modular thing, I did it for a while, you know, I used it on tour. So, and I like the idea. We'll see if it, you know, is something that people really dig. You know, I have a sort of, like, I wish them all the luck. I mean, I think, and I know the folks really well that are doing the Synergy stuff, and I wish them lots of luck. I have a thing where it's like, I don't know that just change, I guess, especially with high gain amps, changing the preamp can change the sound a lot. But if you don't change the power section, this is my only reservation. If you don't change the power section, you know, if you've got a consistent power amp and a consistent speaker cabinet, what you'll notice probably many times is that the sound, I don't know how much it changes when you just go from module to module. It's like, oh, I thought there'd be a bigger difference between, say, the Diesel and the Soldano SLO. Now, there'll be a difference, but if you're running into, say, a cabinet with V30s and you're using the same power amp, you're going to hear some difference in the front end, but, you know, and so that's the only thing. I think people getting it should know going in that a huge part of the sound difference is the power amp and also the cabinet changing, you know, different speakers. And so, you know, because you get a deluxe reverb model or a Bassman model, you know, you're still going to be running into whatever cabinet. If you use a deluxe reverb style 112 cabinet or a Bassman style, you know, open back 410, that has so much to do with the sound of those amps. So that's the only thing. Just know going in that, you know, that's the reality of it. I mean, I had like deluxe and Bassman and clean modules for my M4, all these different modules, and they all didn't really sound that much different because I was running them to the same stereo 50-watt power amp and the same 412 cabinet. The Hoppo is up in the top chat, and he says, I shouldn't do them a disservice, though. Let me say what I like about it. Like, I like the recording preamps and the single preamp idea that you can take and maybe add like a high gain channel to a combo. Let's say you've got a combo that's got a great clean sound, but you don't like the distortion sounds in it. Well, now you can add a BE100 style, you know, distortion channel, plug it in the effects loop of the combo, and now you've got like a real high gain, like, you know, that could work great, say, with like a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe or something. I would think that'd be cool. I haven't tried it, but in theory, adding a Soldano or Diesel front end or whatever, you know, now you can do high gain through your combo. That's pretty cool. I think that's cool, and I like the little combo they had. sorry, the little head they had that was 30 watts that had a clean channel with a volume, a bass, and a treble, and then you could put one module in it. I tried that thing and I thought it sounded really, really good with the Plexi module. So I like both those quite a bit. The Hoppo is up in the top chat. Thank you, sir. He's from the UK. And he says, Pete, I have a Marshall 212 1936 V cabinet with two V30s, 140 watts, looking to swap out one speaker. Any suggestions? Looking to make it a little warmer and creamier. Greenback of some sort. I would probably, you're going to need a high power greenback. So you maybe want to try either a Creamback M from Celestion or maybe a Scumbag M75 65 watt. And then you'll have about the same power handling. Use kind of some kind of high power greenback, and it'll help to take some of that V30 kind of upper mid edge off. There's somebody else up in the top chat. He's from Canada, and his name is 106X Bones. Thank you, sir, for doing the top chat. You're too kind. He says, great to follow you since our days at Westbrook. Oh my God, this guy went to my elementary school. That's incredible. That's really amazing. So whoever you are, I've known you since kindergarten, I guess. That's incredible. Thanks for the music reviews and for the Sunday coffee sessions. These are fantastic. Got to leave early today. Hey man, that's amazing that, it's always, the internet can be a wonderful thing. Like, finding somebody from your elementary school. That's incredible. Anyway, thanks, man. And I hope you're well. I assume you're up in Edmonton, my hometown. Moving down, can I compare my pickups to the Aldrich signature pickups? Which one has a higher output and which is the more versatile? Well, Aldrich's are about as polar opposite as you could get. I think the bridge is 17K, something like that. I think the Aldrich neck pickup might be very similar to an SSV neck model, which is an Alnico 5. It's going to be a little bit hotter than the Thornbucker neck. Same magnet. Thornbucker neck pickup does have an Alnico 5, but it's mismatched coils. I bet the Aldrich is probably match coil. So different thing, different sound, higher output. Doug's pickups are higher output, I've got them in one guitar. I've got them in a Sir Modern that I have here. And that guitar is really cool for, when I want to nail the front of the amp and do high gain pickup stuff. Let's see. Once again, I've got a question kind of about plateaus and getting past humps in playing. That's Nahani09. He says, hey, Pete, I've hit a massive plateau in my playing, so to speak. Any suggestions to help me out? Lessons, always lessons. There's always, you could learn flamenco guitar. You could learn classical guitar. Like folks like Randy Rhoads, who used to take classical lessons all the time. And, when he... I always hear about John 5 as another guitar player that he's mentioned that when he goes on the road, he finds a local guitar teacher in whatever town he's in, and he goes and takes a lesson. I find that amazing. Here's a guy that's, probably out with Rob Zombie or whatever, and he books a lesson with local guitar teachers. So you kind of got to work at it, I guess. But, and then one thing that I mentioned is the Jam Track Central, I can't recommend enough, like Laurie Basilio's lesson on there, or when she does like a fingerstyle electric guitar lesson on how she gets, and she was in my studio here recording for a record a couple of weeks ago, and she played some ridiculous sounding shit with her fingers, no pick, and then she'd switch to a pick for other parts. And so she has this funky, incredible style that she does. You can get so expressive with your fingers. So maybe that's something, like put the pick down, pick up Laurie's lesson off of Jam Track Central and learn some of her licks. Now you've given yourself a new bag of tricks, and a whole new avenue to explore. Just there's always more to learn on guitar. Slide, put it in open G, find some slide lessons online, True Fire, all these great resources there is now, and explore a different thing. Moving down. Moving down. 7-Eleven coffee burnt, says George. You know what is amazing in Japan? 7-Eleven's got coffee down, like it's good. Everybody was always telling me to try it, like try the, folks that are from there, they're like, try the iced coffee at 7-Eleven, it's killer. And I was like, come on. And then I went and tried it. I was like, holy shit, it's actually really good. And it's $1. So they got into the coffee thing a while ago, and kind of high quality coffee for $1. It's actually, I swear to God, it's like, it tastes like if you get an iced whatever from Starbucks, it's at least as good as that. So yeah, Japan, they do it right. Let's see. Kemper player here. It is unbeatable for home practice. That's AK. Recording anywhere and playing live. Truly amazing. There's a lot of Converse. A lot of people love it. I like mine very much too. It's definitely they made a good piece of gear. There's no doubt. Moving down. Somebody's mentioning Brett Garcet, old guy's guitar vlog. That's right, as being a great player. Brett is amazing. He's from Australia, terrific guitar player. Let's see. Holy crap, Sean Tubbs in this chat. Is he? Sean, what's up, dude? There he is. I see him now. Sean, great to see you here. Amazing guitar player, of course. Amazing. And a good guy. Sean, I enjoyed your studio tour recently. I watched that. That was cool. Really good. Would the Dirty Shirley from Friedman work better than the BEOD for Marshall 1962? Are you talking about pedals in particular? The BEOD is just higher gain. Dirty Shirley is going to be lower gain. Think Zeppelin, ZZ Top, that kind of thing. 70s style gain, and the BEOD is more modded, and it's tough, I find, to maybe get ZZ Top and stuff out of the BEOD. It wants to rock, it's a little bit higher gain pedal, that's for sure. Although the new BEOD, the dual channel version, it's a little bit easier maybe to dial in the the lower gain tones. I seem to remember it's got a lower gain voice kind of on the it's got 2 channels in it, and one of them is dialed to be kind of lower gain than maybe the single pedal. So, any word on the saddles that you're using on your signature guitar will be available? I don't know anything about like him selling them, Wilkinson making them available. The bridge is now, like, if you order one of my guitars now, for sure that bridge is coming on the guitar unless it's already built. But ones they're making now all have the new bridge. But as far as individual saddles and stuff, I don't have any idea, because it's a Wilkinson thing. So you'd have to ask Trev as far as what's happening with it. Teddy is in the top chat. Thanks, man. And he's in the UK, and he says, right hand tapping direction, down or up? I kind of go down. Yeah. So I'm like, and this is obviously I've got no pick right now. So I might use if I was tapping, I think I did a tap in the video I did the other day, which I almost never do anymore. But I would hold the pick and then do it with my middle finger and pull off down. If you're doing the Eddie thing, I think he might pull up, right? Not 100% sure, but I'm definitely down. Definitely down. What else we got? Gabe King says you don't have to play guitar, just carry one, drink beer, and wear a leather jacket. Yeah. Or these days, I guess, you could carry around a laptop or an iPad, and then people think you're a DJ. What else we got here? Let's see. Stab the thumbs up, says Sean Tubbs. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah, please hit the thumbs up if you're digging the video. I really appreciate it. It helps. And please subscribe. I'm trying to get to 150,000. I'm almost there. I'm just a few hundred shy. Okay, I'm like 800 shy. But yeah, trying to put it over the edge of the next little marker, I guess, which is 150. I don't know why. Like, what difference does it make if you have 150 or 151 or 149? But it feels like 150. So it took me forever to get to 100, and then 50 came quicker. So that's good. I guess it's still going. Pete, how do you like the non-fine tuner Floyd compared to the Goto 510? Well, the difference being, these are a little finicky, these bridges. The knife edges on it, I know John had to go in and sharpen. The posts, it's not a direct drop-in replacement for you. Got to do some routing and stuff. So it's a different thing. And the strings don't string through the block and stuff. That said, I like the feel of this bridge. Like I used it this week in the solo on the G4 pedal. I used these 2 pieces of gear this week to make a video, and I do like the feel and stuff of this Floyd. It feels great, and it does stay in tune pretty good. Although not as good on this guitar as my the new bridge. The Wilkinson stays in tune better, actually. I think it might be just binding a little somewhere or something. I don't know, but I couldn't keep the G string as in tune. I was having to retune a bit when I was doing takes of that solo till I got one I liked. But it's pretty damn good. Like, it's, I don't know. It's good, but it's more work using this bridge for sure. You're gonna have to route, you're gonna have to drill, you're gonna have to do more stuff, and then you got to cut the ball in and all that business. Sometimes when I'm putting strings on the new bridge on the Wilkinson, I still go for the string cutter. Like I'm gonna cut the ball in, and oh no, strings like through the block like a regular bridge. I forget. And the great thing is the new bridge sounds like a 510. It really does. It doesn't really like I don't really notice a difference. It's got that thing like a warmth. I don't know what it is, but to a Strat that strings through the block, you know, it's just a sound. And so you retain that. Let's see. What was the company? This is a good question. Aaron Song says, what was the company you mentioned before that has the parts to revamp older Macs? It's called Otherworld Computing, OWC.com, I think is their website, or Otherworld Computing. I'm not sure that's their website, but Otherworld Computing anyway. And they make, if anybody's got a Mac that is running slow or shitty, it's your hard drive, generally speaking. I swear to God, it's just planned obsolescence stuff that Apple does. But, you know, if you got an older drive that's like a physical spinning 5,400 RPM drive or whatever, you got to get a new SSD because you can, you know, if you got an old Mac from 2012 or 13 or something with one of those old drives, get a new SSD and pop it in there. And what Otherworld Computing does is they sell kits that come with all the screwdrivers you need to replace the drive. And they've got great tutorial videos on how to do it yourself. And it seems daunting, but it's actually not that hard. So, you can get a kit from them and it works really well. I did that on my old laptop, my old Mac Pro, and I kept that computer for another year after that, got another year of use out of it. It was great. So, and then I was able to sell it to somebody and actually get decent money for it because it was like, no, it's upgraded and it works well. You know, before, you know, it got to the point where it was grinding to a halt. Like it would take 15 minutes just to start up and start working kind of normal. So anyway, Otherworld Computing, great resource for memory. You know, if you need RAM or any of that stuff, as well as backup drives, or, you know, it's just a really, really good resource for SSD drives and stuff. Robert's Guitar Dungeon says, what do I think of some of the larger pedal companies' new pedal lines in comparison to what's available in the boutique pedal world? Boss, Wazacraft, TC Electronic, Tone Prints. I think all the big companies are kicking ass right now. Like Boss is ruling in the last few years with the Waza stuff, with the, you know, the dimension they brought out and the better metal zone, which actually sounds really pretty friggin' good. Like it's good distortion pedal. You know, and obviously their two-back expander. I mean, I think I know the president of Boss, like Yoshi. He's a great guy. I've had dinner with him. I've had drinks with him. I've hung out with the guy, and he's a really impressive dude. Like he's been there forever. You know, he designed the old SDE 3000, and he's been at the company forever. And he said to me one time when we were hanging out, he said, you know, I want to make things that are cool. Like he goes, I don't care as mumuch about making money. He goes, I don't care if it's not cool, then I'm not interested. I was like, this guy's cool. Like he's the president of Boss, the biggest pedal company, and he's really a guitar player and guitar. You know, he loves guitar and rock and roll and stuff. So he's a cool guy. Just because he's part of the big company doesn't make him any different than, I guess, a guy starting a boutique pedal company that's cool. So that's good to see. And DoD and TC Electronic, I mean, Tone Print. You know, I love the many of the TC pedals. The flashback delay is great. You know, and their viscous vibe core Univibe clone, that thing's killer, and it's an inexpensive, really good sounding Univibe pedal. I did a number of videos with Tor from TC last year over in Denmark, so I got to play a whole bunch of their pedals. They make great stuff. So if it sounds good, it's good. You know, MXR making great stuff. I think I do. Yeah, Aaron says he's got a 2009 24-inch Mac. Yeah, definitely needs it. Yeah, dude, look at Otherworld Computing, $200 to $300, and they will sort you out, and you'll have a computer that runs super fast. You'd be like, oh my God, it's like getting a new computer, because it's not the processor, you know, it's really not. It's for at least most tasks, you know, it's really the drives and the way that it's planned obsolescence, as Rico USA. I believe it is. I mean, Mac's already been busted for that with their phones and stuff, how they slow down phones and all that. It's bullshit. But, you know, SSD makes a big difference. Once you put that in there, it's a whole different world. Nikki Joe says, seems I've seen several NAMM Andy Timmons concert. He must have brought the house down. Great player, great tone, and a really nice guy. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen my NAMM video I put out, go check it out, because Andy Timmons, I caught his whole Bohemian Rhapsody performance almost, and I videoed the whole thing and put it up there in my video. And that was the best thing of the whole night to me. It was out of a bunch of great guitar players, Paul Gilbert, and of course Andy Wood, and all. But the performance of Bohemian Rhapsody, his take on it was, I mean, he just nailed it. He's such a musical guy. So I love Andy Timmons, great guitar player. Let's see here. Let's see. What else we got? I'm gonna go down to the end of the chat here, guys, because I'm kind of like running out of things to say. I got to find a new, and it's almost time for me to go anyway. David says, Pete, based on your advice about the Ted Green chord chemistry book, very intense. That's a great word. Call it chord casualties. It is intense. How do I recommend studying it? What were the best things you learned? I don't even know, dude. It is intense. It's so deep. Ted had this interesting thing of like studying voicings up the neck, which now kind of you could apply to kind of doing the cage system or something. But Ted would do this thing where he would like, this guitar's a little out of tune, but he would study triads like this, right? So I'm going on a group of 3 strings. So 1, 2, 3. Here's a D shape. Here's the next inversion. Here's the next inversion. Here's the next inversion, right? And they start to repeat. Of course, it's, root, third, fifth. So you get 3 different, and then you're going to repeat, right? So in this position, this is the fifth of the chord. This is the root. There's the third, and then we're back to the fifth on the G string, right? And then now we're going to do string 2, 3, and 4. And then we start over again there, right? So that's one thing that I remember really basic doing with Ted, like things like that, and studying these little 3-note shapes, little 3-note inversions of all the chords was a cool thing, right? Like that, all the groups of little 3-note triads all the way up the neck. So that was really nice. That's a very, very basic, but anyway, moving down a little bit further. Let's see. Theo says, just watched your So You Want to Be a Pro Musician, Don't Be an A-Hole. Liked it. Good stuff, he says. Thank you. Yeah, more to come this week. Every Wednesday, I'm going to put up a new video in that series, and I'm looking forward to getting more up. Pete says, Pete P, he's in the chat. He says, what string gauge do you use on acoustics? I tried 12 to 54 and it sounded good, but there was too much string tension. I got no problem with using 11s, to be honest, on acoustics. So go ahead and, if you just, it's not even an option, then go for it and use 11s. I'll put 12s on some guitars and kind of, but I've gone to lighter strings on electric. So I think 11s are probably appropriate on acoustic for me at this point, Long chat today says, Surf by, went out and tested out a Trailer 314 CE I'm interested in. Now I'm back for the ride home. That's cool. That's a nice guitar. Yeah, I've got, well, I guess I've gone 2 hours, which is how long I seem to go lately, because I started late. Would I replace any of my drives with the D&M drive? It's really good. That's the Dan and Mick drive from Keeley. I thought it sounded great in the video I made of it. Sure. I mean, it'd be terrific to have on a board where I can't remember. I think one's kind of more. I'm trying to remember what they're both like. One's more kind of cleaner, and then the other one's more tube screamery, as I remember. But it could work well if you want 2 different drives that are complementary. Keeley's great about that, about combining different things in one pedal, and he told me that's kind of what he's kind of into these days. Doing like combining. For example, he makes that Hendrixy pedal that I think has an Octavia and vibe and everything all in one pedal. That's cool. Space savers and stuff. Okay, last few questions here. Somebody's asking me if I've tried an Engel Steve Morse. That was Stuart. I have not. I haven't played a lot of Engel amps. EP Store says, can you describe how you achieved the detune effect on your song Head Rush? Greetings from the home of the Scorpions, Hanover, Germany. I probably used the if there was a detune or detune chorus, I probably used that. I can't remember though, to be honest. That was a couple years ago now, so I'd have to go back and look. Rush to the Head, I think, is the song, because I did a demo of the Head Rush in it, and then I thought, why don't I just put this out as a single, because it ended up being like a pretty cool full track, so I put it out. I'd have to go back and listen, but it was all that unit, so it's in there, and it was probably, you know, chorus or detune effect. Are the Tone Fiend acoustics less susceptible to humidity changes? Are they Tone Fiend? Is that what they're called? Tonified acoustics, less susceptible to humidity. I don't know what that is, Aaron. Sorry, is that like some sort of composite guitar? I'm just Aaron asking that. Chris says, hi Pete, any advice on eliminating echo from tremolo springs? The noiseless coated springs work well, but it's a compromise. The bridge isn't grounded to the trem cloth. So yeah, you can just put something underneath them, and I generally would use a little bit of like paper towel. You can wrap something up and put it under the trem springs. So just anything really thin that you can think to put under there, give it a try. A little cloth, a little paper towel. I've used paper towel before, because yeah, I've had guitars where the springs are just like ring through the, you know, like you're doing tight muted stuff. You're like, what the hell is all that stuff ringing? Sometimes it can be above the nut, but generally speaking, it's the trem springs ringing. And yeah, just try wrapping up a little paper towel and sticking it right under the springs. Not too much, just enough to kind of make contact with them. Peter Evans is in the top chat, and he says, happy Sunday. Thank you, Peter. I'm a fan of your format. Thanks. Unscripted, simple. Enjoy the day. Thanks, man. You too. Have a good rest of your Sunday. I appreciate it. Let's see. Jared says, tired of lugging around my AC30s to practice in gigs. Favorite one speaker combo. I have an AC15 with one speaker here that I think sounds great. Little AC15 hand wired. So we'll give Vox a plug. It's a nice little amp, you know, should be loud enough for many situations, I would think. The magic with an AC is kind of that in between dirty and clean anyway. So getting out of the clean headroom thing and pushing it a little bit. That's my favorite sound on those amps. So check out maybe a hand wired. Mine's a little blonde. You know, here, I'll take a picture of it and I'll show you so that you know which one I have. It's sitting in the corner so you can't see it. There we go. It's that one. Little AC15 combo that looks like that. Little hand wired blonde situation. And then I put it came with a greenback. I bought it used, and it came with a greenback, and I put it's got a Weber speaker in it. That's an Alnico that handles about 50 watts, and it's a nice sounding speaker. Okay. Is there anything I would suggest for cleaning light color speaker baffles? Live performance got a little crazy with the crowd. I think it's beer, maybe. Light color speaker baffles. That'd be a good question for Dave Friedman. Maybe send him an email at racksystems@yahoo.com and ask him what he would use to clean something like that. That's a good question. He probably knows some sort of, like, you know, I don't know about Goo Gone or something like that you could use to it's probably something you can use, but he'll have a better idea than me. All right, guys, I gotta go. I got a split. It's over, I think. Okay, one more question. Are the baked roasted? Oh, I already answered that. The nice thing about the coated noiseless springs is that you can get them in different tensions also. That's Chris Nat. Yeah, I guess there's some noiseless trem springs you can get and try. I do the old school thing, just stick something there to dampen them. But anyway, all right, I'm going to split you guys. Have a good rest of your week. I'll see you next Sunday, and we'll do this all again. I've got videos coming this week for some new stuff. I got to get the videos done for the Brothers pedal from... what's that company called? Why am I being so stupid? They're called this one. Who even makes this pedal? I can't even remember. Chase Bliss. That's it. Well, that's not Chase Bliss's fault. That's my fault because I'm stupid sometimes. And I'm also going to do, I've got this Bonar pedal, which is, I got to get a video done for this. They sent me this ages ago, and I feel bad I haven't completed it yet. So this is tape delay. Sorry, not tape delay, like a drum delay, like this is another Benson. The Benson craze continues. So I got to get this done and out. 2 notes. I got a spring reverb here from pedal from I have 2 spring reverbs, actually, Crazy Tube Circuits, and also one from Source Audio. So I got to get those done. So some different kind of stuff coming this week for sure. And also look out for on Wednesday for my video for the next video in the So You Want to Be a Pro Musician series. Going to be all about where do you even start, like some ideas, like how to network, how to grow your, you get more exposure, and how to meet the kind of people you need to meet in order to get into an audition or get into a situation where you're actually getting opportunities for gigs and that kind of thing. Okay, so thanks for joining me, you guys. This was awesome. I really appreciate you being here. Have a great rest of your week. And hit the thumbs up if you haven't. Hit subscribe if you haven't. And take care, everybody.